Hello. My name is Nombasa and I am a singer-songwriter, I'm a performer, I am an MC, I'm a voiceover artist, I'm a music culture activist. I wear a lot of hats, but we're gonna just end it there for an introduction. But on this episode, I wanna zone in on my journey. I wanna zone in on my journey of how I became to love music, to write songs, and what I feel at the different seasons in my life that helped with building me up, my capacity to sing, my capacity to write songs and tell stories through songs. So I guess this is to say, welcome to my YouTube channel. So I grew up in a religious home. I think many many Black people can say that they grew up in a religious home. So particularly we went to Iqaluthwa Iwisile. So my grandmother was Umwisile and my grandfather as well. I grew up in an extended family with my cousins early on in my life, cousins, uncles, grandparents. And I mean, when I look at it now, I think I benefited some things. Yes, there were things that, you sort of, need to heal from, but more so it was quite rich. And I hope, I get to raise my children in a context where there's a lot of family around, a lot of people who are supporting them as a village. But nonetheless, so I want to zone in on the first time I experienced the exhilarating feeling of being able to just sing. So what happened was that growing up, we would have imisebenzi ekhaya, things like traditional ceremonies, like with umqombothi, or I don't do those things anymore now. Imiqombothi nemisebenzi, imigidi, and obviously we know that in the African context, yonke into involves a song. If akongoma, the event, it's actually not an event. So what I loved was asixhensa sicula. But one of the things that I really remember feeling like I'm being mentored when I look back at it now, I see that I actually think my grandmother had a great hand in mentoring me in the early stages of life. So my mom worked out of town in the early stages of my life, and so that meant, obviously, as I alluded earlier on, that I actually was raised in a family that's extended. So obviously the norm in the African culture then, even now, most kids are raised by their grandmothers. So what would happen on Saturday afternoons? I grew up in Grahamstown, first of all, and so what would happen in the afternoons is, on Saturday afternoons, my grandmother would always just call me up or call my cousins and everyone to just say, let's sing. We're going to pray, but let's sing first. And the singing was more extensive than the prayers. And so, I remember the first time that happened, I was like, this is amazing. And apparently it is like that. When you grow up in that kind of culture where music is cultivated, there's a health, an emotional health and well-being that is edified in you. So this became a culture, and so I remember my cousins losing interest, and it will be me now and my grandmother who just sing, and she would just always and just say Nombasa kayothatha iculo, a hymn book. So iculo like walithanda lukhangela kuwe Vana ye Calvary ukholo intonga yakhe ke leyo. And so we would sit and just sing, and we would go through onke number 11 bulelani kuYehova. It would be amazing. And I remember when she noticed that I could actually harmonize. I think I'm an alto, my voice is I can't do soprano. I'll falsetto through it, but it's not my voice. When she realized that I can actually harmonize without actually being taught, she just would be so keen to always call me up to sing, and she enjoyed it too. And yabazi abantu abadala la nto yabo, omakhulu bethu, makazi, or the way they sing. I think also, especially as they get older, their voices, I think they do thin out. And so she would sing a soprano, but I mean, I think she was a tenor pretty much. But she would sing a soprano for my sake, to allow me to harmonize. I get so excited when I talk about this story. And I remember, I mean, I still hear her voice even now. Luca, la vai, it was just the most comforting thing. And I said, my mom worked out of town, and there will be times where when she leaves the weekend, that scarred me, but this woman is leaving because I missed her, and I think those moments with my grandmother were some of the most amazing and comforting moments. There's ingoma within this home, there's activities that take place, and even I remember my cousin and I, we used to be early in this other church. We'd be like 2 hours early because we just wanted to go. And so that culture was cultivated of singing. And so now moving on to when I started school, I mean, I don't even have an idea that the last time I would have, recalled was a primary school, like, obviously, as a city recitation, I think it's recitals or whatever. But you know how we grow up with these wrong terms. But anyway, and so what I knew in essence is that I loved music. And so andifika now esikolweni, this is in 1994, grade 1, and I'm like, oh, this is nice. In an assembly, we had assembly every day because I went to a Catholic school, and we would sing before we go, we start the day and have assembly. And it started the year I started in 1994, so they had grade 1, grade 2 up to grade 3, and so there were older ones. Back then it seemed like people who's like people who are 2 grades ahead of you are much older, but actually in essence now I look at that, I'm like, not really. But so we would sing in assembly, and I remember feeling like, man, I am passionate about this. There's something about a song, singing and being part of a song. And so when we then we reached that, when I reached school, and there was now a retired teacher who was called up to come and assist in sports coaching, but also music, because her reputation, Miss Luti, people called her my Dali, literally every time. I think it was I never realized then it actually meant my darling, because she called everyone my Dali, so everyone would call her my Dali. And so she may her soul rest in peace. She actually passed on a few years ago, but she really played she's one of the people who played a role. So her and my grandmother thus far, so played an incredible role in just refining me and igniting a passion for music. And so she taught us. So we would go to competitions and choir competitions. I mean, I ended up later on in double quartets, or like a quartet, or choir, or girls voice voice choir, or a girls choir. That meant a lot to me because I loved the stage. And so that happened actually from grade 1 till I left the school in grade 9. And she was such a disciplinarian as well. I mean, I remember, I was in alto, so at one stage there was a there was a key that we were not getting as the altos. There was a note that we were not getting, and she would drill it, and obviously when you go home you have to sort of rehearse and then come back knowing the right note. The altos were failing dismally that time, so she hit us all. She took her cane, hit us, and I remember crying, and I'm still a crier. A week doesn't go by without me crying. I remember crying and feeling like I can't stop crying, because that's also one thing about me. When I start crying, I cannot stop. When I start laughing, I cannot stop. And so I'm very, I thrive off those emotions. And so and I mean, she would also ask teachers to give them a double period, like their double period. I mean, and we would know. I would be excited when, classes are cancelled, maths or English or whatever subject. The class is cancelled, and we know that sizocula, that's all we're gonna do. And what she did with hitting us, I remember crying throughout and till break time. I think there were 2 periods before break time, and I think we were in like 25 minutes within the double period, which would take like maybe 50 minutes. I just couldn't stop crying. I cried, and everyone, now break time, because they could see my eyes were swollen, and they would ask, what's wrong, why Nombasa? And then I would start crying, and then my cousin or whoever would just be like, oh no, the alto section. And then people would be so amazed, but why aren't the other kids crying? Why are you the only one who's crying? But anyway, so my daddy was a disciplinarian, and I think that even when she started, when she came to ask like in class, who wants to sing, I knew, because my grandmother had taught me that you sing, you can sing. Now she affirmed me. Yes, in a lot of aspects of my life, I've had difficulty because I grew up very dark, and the stigma when growing up, being dark, it's almost like you're the only odd one out, and then and all of that. Yes, I didn't have confidence in beauty, external beauty, etc. But when it came to song, honey, I knew I knew I was going to be part of that. And so without any hesitation, when my dad, Miss Luti, asked who's wanting to join the team, I was like, I think my hand was one of the first ones up. And I mean, I even remember that in class, if we were asked, what do you want to do when you grow up? And I remember other kids, saying, yes, I want to be a teacher, lawyer, doctor, whatever. I would always say I want to be a musician. But this also is followed by a few years back. My mom, my aunt, myself, and my other cousins, and my mom's cousins, we went to actually a show. There was Rebecca, I think Mom Mercy Pagela, Dr. Rebecca Malofe, and Mom Mercy Pagela, and I think Uvuyo Mugwena. They had a show, if I remember correctly, at the Settlers Monument in Grahamstown, because that's where I grew up. And I remember, because they were wearing like boots, I was just like, I'm fascinated by this. They were alive, and they were loving what they were doing. And I think from then, and this was like early 90s, and I remember thinking, oh my word, I think this is what I want to do. And so my journey then continued into, grade 1, yes, grade 2. And then in grade 2, apart from being part of the choir, there was a guitar group. I think this was led by, it was actually led by Mrs. Harting. And she initiated it. And I think we were walking down the corridor with Uzianda. I think Uzianda based. She was my best friend in primary school. And we were walking together. We loved singing. She was a soprano, I was an alto, and we loved singing. Ziana had a beautiful, sharp soprano. She could sing. And so what happened was that we were just walking down the corridor, and Mrs. Harting was like, hey girls, by the way, there's going to be a guitar group. And come after class. Or I don't know. I can't remember how that went, but that conversation went. But we were intimidated. We're in grade 2, and we're thinking, oh, it means that there's a mixed group, because like there's this like superiority, inferiority complex that goes on with the grades ahead. But man, we were eager, and we joined without any hesitation. There were few of us, so there were, and also because usually with the choirs there would be, because we only started joining the seniors at a later stage. When we were younger, it was only us, and so this gave us an exposure to the seniors, and sort of like gave us a bit of a confidence that actually we can be with seniors. And there was actually another guy in our school, Hlumile Ngakala, actually, such a beautiful voice. So he would lead most of the songs in the guitar group. And so I remember being excited. I remember being so excited about it because our first performance was going to be at City Hall. I think it was our prize giving or concert, because we would have obviously annual prize givings and annual concerts. And I remember just thinking, man, the first night on that stage in the guitar group, I remember thinking, I want to do this forever. At that time, I'm not thinking that far, but I'm like, it was almost a state of feeling like, can I live here forever? Is this And I think that's when I realized that I actually love music. Now fast forward to high school. So I did a year at Bethel, and we had a group called the Four N's. It was Unombasa, it was Unqabisa, it was Undileka, and it was Unwabisa. So all our names started with an N, and so we thought we're gonna call ourselves Four N's. I was also in a girls group. There was 6 of us, and I was just very active in music there as well. That really taught me how to harmonize, like develop my harmonizing abilities. But then when I came back, because I matriculated from Enombulelo Senior Secondary School, because there were more choral and I wasn't wanting that, I found 2 friends who, when back then in Enombulelo, sometimes you'd get teachers not coming to class. Sorry, but it for me, I loved that as much as it was, we wouldn't be learning much, but I loved that because it meant we were just gonna sing. We were just gonna stand by the corridor, stand by the class, and just sing. And I remember that at the time, there was me, Aluta, no Cindy, and Olisi. Those were my high school friends, and I remember us standing and singing, and we just surrounded by people. They just started coming, and it was such a great experience, and we were harmonizing. I think the song that we used to like singing, so close, I believe you're holding me now in your hands, and I know you'll never let me go. So I think that time was very it was amazing for me that I was not particularly in the school choir, but I realized that I could sing. And that's also when I sort of affiliated with the SDA church, and that propelled me to sing further. At Rhodes University, when I went to study, there was a group called, I think it's still in existence actually. It's called Voice of Glory. I was there with OKC, Okotato, Samantha Mundeta was the president then, and many other people who just made my experience at Rhodes so wonderful, because it was a society, focused on music, and I was obviously an alto. And then in the second year, I actually became a secretary of that society. It was amazing. We also had camps, and so I don't remember a time where a year that I was not singing, even if it wasn't necessarily like within a group setting, but I always just loved singing. And now in zooming into coming to East London, I remember then being so hesitant to join the worship team. I joined a church, and I was just very hesitant. I think I've always had a problem of feeling intimidated because I felt invalidated. I think over the years, because also the culture of there was no sense, even in my family, even though I had been shouting and screaming throughout the years, telling them that I want to be, in a path of music, I don't think it was cultivated. My grandmother and grandfather, I knew they supported us when we went to, out of town to choir competitions. They're very supportive. They would buy us umpako, and those were the nice things, because you would get the nice things like juice, not like umongi mali sweet, so things like that really encouraged me. But I don't think they saw it as a thing that I should make a living out of. Unfortunately, in our country, it's very tricky. But I think that because then it was not cultivated, no one was saying, oh, why don't you do this? And also, as much as I grew up in a town that had the National Arts Festival, there's still the notation that it's still in the center of town, you know. Elokishini doesn't really come, but I mean they've developed it now. And so even during the National Arts Festival, I only attended it once when I was younger. There was not like an encouragement to go to shows if we have a festival as a you know, as a black child or Kulele Lokishini, or who didn't have exposure to the better, who didn't attend the better schools. You were just going to the National Arts Festival, the flea markets, the, you know, in the streets. You're not going to shows. So I only really got serious about going to shows around varsity time, because also the Voice of Glory, I remember they had a show, so we started going to jazz shows, etc. And this growing up was never a thing. And then I started seeing that I know that I can't be a musician, so I sort of did like BA courses, but then I took a break, and then so I came to East London after my second year of varsity and took a break. And so here I found a bit of, you know, a family in the community, but I was still hesitant to join. And I mean, I remember even the time that I don't think I auditioned. Did I audition for band? I don't know, I can't remember, but Colin Demboski was the one who was leading the worship team at the church I was going. And so he actually, I think he encouraged me to audition upon finding out that I could sing. There was a sort of free worship session where one could go up with a spontaneous song. And so that really sort of, I mean, even people were aware now that, oh, that girl who can sing. And also after having prophetic words spoken over me and encouragement, and after writing one of the songs that I think they still sing now, but it was just really encouraging. It's called Ngululeko, actually. I've done it before in my shows, but I haven't officially recorded it yet. And so that then gave me a bit of an encouragement. And I think now in my life, even with starting this podcast, this vlog, I think it's something that's dawning on me that I don't need affirmation. I don't need external affirmation for anything. And you realize that it's a matter of just doing it. If you fail, it's okay. It's a learning curve. You go, you know. And I've done a lot of things in my life that I feel like they didn't suffice to anything significant, but I think there were lessons learned. And so I think at that stage, when I was still, you know, finding myself, I didn't have enough confidence. And I think in this time in my life, I do have confidence now. And so this is part one of how I, you know, what has made Unombasa as a musician. And part two will be coming, and now it will be zooming into how the EP came about, and how the music journey is going, and some of the things that I would want to explore and do. I don't believe I'm just called to being a musician only. I think that I want to do more stuff, especially regarding voiceover stuff, emceeing. I think I'm pretty good at it. And so yeah, thank you for watching 25 minutes. Thank you for watching this video. Do subscribe to keep in touch with me, and I will be creating also more content, as well as just also showing some of my skills in voiceover work and emceeing, so that you can book me for your events. See you next time.